Well, welcome back to So There I Was podcast. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. I've been the only host the entire time. Today's guest is none other than Alani Bankhead. She's of many hats that she wears. She's a current Air Force reservist agent, and I'm sure we're going to dig into that a little bit. As well as an author, TEDx speaker, and many other things. So, Elena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Travis.
So as things go with a wonderful world of LinkedIn, you meet one person randomly and you meet five more. So Lenny's just a fun connection. But let's just I'd like to start everybody with a little bit of kind of what do you do now is great, but we'll start with kind of where did you join and why did you join the military?
That's such a great question. I'll keep it short, but I come from a military family. So my dad was in the Army. He was a military policeman and a foreign area officer, specializing in Latin America. And so we ended up PCSing to Colombia at the height of Pablo Escobar era and observing the impact of narco trafficking on this incredible culture. I just had a fire and I was like, I want to fuck those guys up. Like, what do I got to do that? And so I thought I wanted to join the Army. I wanted to be just like my dad. I thought I wanted to go to West Point, and he actually taught there. And the closer I got to graduating, I was like, I want to have a life in college. So miraculously got an ROTC scholarship for the Air Force and wanted to be an intel person to go work narco trafficking stuff in South America. Didn't turn out that way. I ended up joining as a personnelist at first, which was like the worst day of my life. I mean, ugly snot bubble tears. Like I was like, who did I piss off? Like, why is this happening to me?
You open the envelope, you're like, no.
Yeah. See, I was like, what is this? And I was devastated. Of course, now in hindsight, it was a big blessing. But I was a personnelist for about 4 years, still trying to get to South America to do the counter drug effort however I could, kept getting told no. And then I had all these bosses who were recommending, you should become a special agent. And at the time, I thought being an agent was like being a snitch. And I was like, no, like I don't do internal affairs stuff, like snitches get stitches. I'm not doing that. And it like sort of came to a head where there were so many, like the universe was just telling me like, you have to apply for this. And so I did it sarcastically, not expecting to get in. And then I got a call almost a year later. And so that's how I ended up as a special agent.
So have you been a reservist the whole time, or are you active for a little while?
I was active duty for 12 years.
Okay.
And then I've been reserves for the last 8.
Okay. So the Air Force, we always joke the Army, they pick the worst pieces of land to put Army bases, like, because like Benning, or what's it called now? Something, it's like the sand hill and the dirt and the mud. And like, Bragg or Fort Liberty now is the most humid, god awful stuff. And Fort Polk is literally a swamp. So Air Force, though, is the middle of nowhere.
100%, but we build our golf courses first. That's true. Always the most important part. Facts.
I grew up in West Texas, and we was at Dias out in Abilene.
Yeah,
like there's not green for 100 miles in any direction except for that golf course.
Yep, and it's perfect. So
yeah, big bombers there too out here. So
allegedly,
yeah, you can go watch them. There's lots of YouTube about that.
Right.
So, it's like they're super secret until they're on YouTube,
but not really.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So what that kind of department do you do? Are you doing the narco stuff in the reserves, or what is your specialty?
I'm not. So it's funny how, so when I first became an agent, again, by accident, my very first case was an attempted murder case that turned into a child sex abuse case. Oh. And so yes, it did. But so I was the only female agent in the office. I was a baby agent still on probation, did not know what the hell I was doing. And we arrested the guy, and my boss tells me, okay, you're going to go do the suspect interview. And I'm like, are you kidding? I can't do that. Like, how am I going to get that guy to open up to me about his sexual fetishes? Like, this is just not going to happen. And he's like, well, get in there and get it done. And I got the confession, and that was the day for me that I realized, oh my gosh, I can protect kids for a living. And so that's been my passion ever since. I've worked a lot of really other cool mission sets, which have also given me a break from the slimy pit that is child
I was gonna say that's a
exploitation.
dark place.
It is a really hard place to be in, but what I realize now is that counter drug effort that I really wanted to get into was actually more of protecting the vulnerable. So I didn't, frankly, I personally don't care if people do drugs. Like, yes, it's bad. We don't want you
Yeah.
turning wrenches, right? Like all that stuff. But if you mess with kids or people who can't defend themselves,
Yeah.
that is where my heart is.
Yeah.
And so now I realize that that's where I was being led the entire time. And so I'm a child exploitation specialist. So
Wow.
child sex abuse material, child sex trafficking, sextortion, yeah, anything having to do, especially on like the cyber side.
Okay. Wow.
I specialize in that.
So I'm sure you in your community is probably what's the movie that came out? Freedom.
Oh, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah. So
Yes.
probably well talked about in y'all's community.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's so many conversations about
I can
that
only
movie.
imagine. So it's a great movie,
Yeah,
but I'm sure
yeah,
it's the the stuff that people don't know about. That's sad. It's I was
exactly.
telling you before we hit record, my roommate in OCS, that's what he did. And he's
Mhm.
just like, I'm so glad that I'm in logistics now. So, because like, if I have to arrest or find another sleaze bag, I might just lose my mind.
No,
So
100%. You lose faith in humanity. I mean, like, I think we all have a crisis moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah.
what is happening right now?
Well,
But it
how
is what it
bad it
is.
actually is, though, is what's sad. Is
Absolutely.
the blindness to what that is, and what it does to families and what it does to kids and generations and everything else is it's kind of like I don't know, I grew up in church, and
Hmm.
like it's kind of like we don't talk about Bruno. you know
That's right.
we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about pornography. We don't talk about kids and all these things. It's like, oh, we're gonna go to the other side of Target real quick and look at the
Yeah.
and just kind of like look away. And it's kind of sad
Right.
that because it's like, I don't want, if we ignore it, it's not happening. And
Right.
it's a
No,
bad thing.
absolutely. And having been in the space for a while, it drives me a little bit nuts when you like make suggestions like maybe we should get to the root cause, like trauma,
Yeah.
and talk about that so people can heal so they don't end up engaging in these behaviors that are unhealthy and lead to really
Yeah.
bad things happening. But it's easier to look away than to address the root cause.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation so many times with commanders or whoever where I tell them like we cannot out arrest our way out of the situation.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it at some point.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I think conversations that are on your platform are so important
Yeah.
because you're getting to the root cause of, what's going on and how do we address this with the same courage that we address whatever war front
Yeah.
we're fighting, right?
Yeah. How do you invade a country that can't defend themselves? So,
Same.
but shockingly they can. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Uh, they have rocks and they're really good.
Stop it.
I fought them. I know they would fight. I'm like, how the crap? What the crap is going on here? So no, I actually joke about that all the time. I'm like, man, Iraqis would shoot and run. I said Afghans would like hang out, and you're like, you do know our guns are bigger than y'all, but
Yeah.
y'all are doing shockingly well. I'm kind of
Yeah,
proud of you.
right.
You know, until you're in top of the hills, then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah,
So,
right.
well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit because you got a book called The Least of Us, and I would talk about the imposter syndrome, and I would
Yeah.
love to kind of get into that because I like to read new books. I haven't got to read yours yet, but this is all flash to bang from meet to podcast. Didn't give me time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's all good. Yes. So it came out last year
Okay.
and it was a very painful process because my own imposter syndrome was really loud in my head. So the book was born from honestly just my pain points and wanting to turn them into an encouragement for other people. So a lot of people don't know what imposter syndrome is. It's this phenomenon that was discovered back in the 70s by these two psychotherapists. And in a nutshell, over 60 studies that have been done since the 1970s the same numbers keep popping up. So it's about 70 to 75% of the population experience this feeling that they're not good enough or they're not worthy. And that eventually your coworkers, your bosses are going to figure out that you're not good enough and you're going to get fired or lose respect or professional esteem. And it can go as far as, you know, lose my mortgage and I'm going to have to, you know, figure out some desperate way of staying afloat kind of thing. It can be really insidious. And I discovered what imposter syndrome was when I was on active duty during a unit presentation someone gave. And I'll never forget when they said 70% of you in this room are experiencing this. And I'm looking around like 70% of you yahoos have this thing. And I've been suffering with the little terrorist in my head for years and years. And I'm not the only one. Like I was so mad about it because it was so terrible and scary for years. Like I just never felt good enough. I always felt like I was too small, too female, too Hispanic, too young looking. I look like I'm 12. And I always felt inside like I was someone who should be in the military. And I've always been into, you know, protecting the vulnerable and stuff like that. But I just never really felt like I fit in. And so it's all about my journey and part of, you know, I've had some really wild jobs. So I deployed with special operations, doing human intelligence, counterintelligence. We were looking for Al-Qaeda senior leaders. I have worked counterintelligence like espionage stuff. I did drug cases, you know, the human trafficking, child sex abuse side of things. I was even a senior bodyguard for one of the top Pentagon officials. So it's like all these jobs that when you see me, you're like, you did what? Like that doesn't make sense. And but now what I learned the hard way was all those things I thought were weaknesses that I was trying to suppress actually were the thing I needed to get the mission done. And once I stopped being scared of those things, then, you know, things really started falling into place for me. So
Interesting. I call that being scared of yourself.
100%.
And you know, the worst enemy is the one in your head.
Always. And I think that's what, you know, it's part of what the podcast is about, right? Is how do you interact with that enemy in your head and how do you defeat it? Like, I mean, we're so good at defeating the external enemies, but it's always the internal one that gets us.
Yeah. You know, I relate it to an analogy is you know, being a paratrooper for years, you know, the question everybody always asks is like, what goes through your head before you jump? Because like people, that imposter syndrome's there in their mind of like, I could never do that, right? And like if you've overcome that, and there's thousands and thousands and millions of paratroopers over the history of the army or military, but my answer is always is, I have to pee so bad. And
Yeah.
for anybody who's ever jumped, is like, oh yeah, that was going through my head too.
Yeah.
I just forgot about it, you know, because I never forget. Like I'm my first jump. I'm in that season with C-130, and I'm just like, I've been in this harness for entirely too long. It's like that 5-6 hours of just forever at Green Ramp, and you're just like, but you're so. I'm 23 years old. I'm just gonna have basic training. I still walk around at parade rest where I go because I'm just terrified, you know. And on that plane, and they give you this speech of like, if you refuse to jump, your career's over, and blah blah blah. And you're just like, I've got to pee though so bad. It's like literally through my head, and that plane was like, this is a really stupid idea. Like all of us are pretty stupid, but this is a lot of fun. But you calculate, okay, if I jump, it's about 10, 15 seconds. I'm a pretty big guy. I'll be on the ground. I'm going to just roll over and pee. Great. Or if I don't jump, I got to like fly around a long time while everybody else jumps. And they got to land. They got to do this inspection. I'm still in the harness. I still got to pee. It's like an hour and a half. I'm like, open the door. Let's go. Let's just risk it. So that's literally what went through my head was that process. And every jump since then, as I always giggle on the plane, I'm like, gotta pee.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But isn't that interesting that from the other person's perspective, all they think about is death. And you're like, it's not even, doesn't cross my
that a
mind.
long time ago. You
Right.
know,
Right.
and when you go through, I don't know if you've ever been through airborne school, but you're like, I've fallen so many times now. I'm just, Death sounds like a pretty cool idea, actually.
Right?
I hurt so bad.
Yes. No, I had similar thoughts. I was telling a story a while back about when I was in Iraq, and as part of the story, I had to say something about like, oh, we were getting mortared, and they were like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I'm like, that's not even the point of the story. Like it's
It was Tuesday.
incidental to the
Duh.
story. Yeah. Like I'm just like, that's not, can I finish the story? But having that awareness of like, oh, this isn't normal. And,
Yeah.
oh, but I personally have a belief that I think we're all built uniquely
Hmm.
and especially for the jobs that we're meant to have. Right. And so there are plenty of jobs that I tell those folks, I could never do what you do,
Yeah.
but they're equipped for that work. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, like dying, like I always just kind of felt like when my time
Yeah.
comes up, my time is up and like whatever, but I'm not going to be scared of that. Like
Yeah.
I was more freaked out about looking good in front of these special operations
Yeah.
guys on my, human intelligence meet
Yeah.
than anything else. And so
They're
it
still
is a
playing
warped
spades and we're getting mortared, so I guess we should just hang out.
100%. We're building rapport. Like I'm not leaving until this mission gets done. So yeah.
It's funny that exact story though is also what kind of inspired me to do this whole show. Is if you're standing at the water fountain at the bank, on break on the side or wherever you work at, and you're like, oh yeah, it's crazy. This one time in Iraq, we're getting mortared, and everyone in the round's like freaking out, like you just said the word Iraq and mortar in the same sentence without a comma, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, that's crazy. And you're like, you giggle about it, and they're like, you shouldn't laugh about that. You could have died, like without knowing they're doing it, they're casting two things: judgment and shame. They're
Mhm.
judging you for thinking it's okay to behave like that or think like that. And then the shame is like, you shouldn't laugh. You shouldn't, and I think that's where that exact point is where veteran suicide starts. Is that we're
Mhm.
like, I can't share just a crazy experience, which for us was another Tuesday, you know,
Yes.
and so we stopped sharing those stories. And we stopped sharing those stories. And if you're living in Fort Bragg, where I grew up, I went to Bragg. It's Liberty now. I get it, but
Right.
it's my
Right.
brain isn't.
Right.
It's called back at Bragg for a reason.
Yeah.
Back at Liberty does not sound near as cool, you know. And you leave, and like I think you're up in north, aren't you? Way up north.
In Montana.
Yeah, exactly. So if
Mhm.
you're a paratrooper at Fort Bragg and you move to Montana, you're pretty slim pickings of fellow paratroopers walking around, and so like you just kind of like, well, you just kind of stop sharing these stories and stop sharing these experiences over time, and it's I think it eats us alive over time. And I really think that's where veteran suicide really, really, really exists, is right there. We get away from the community.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely that that shame is so insidious. And unfortunately, my career field has had a lot of suicides as well. And for us being law enforcement, there's a whole thin blue line
Yeah,
element too, right? And so as a child exploitation investigator, I mean, there are things that we see and do that you definitely can't talk about in the
right.
general public because they won't get it.
Yeah,
And much like your story, we have our giggle moments. And even at the academy, they teach you like these are normal psychological responses to dealing with the trauma that you experience all the time. Like you have to lighten things up in order
oh, yeah,
to survive the experience. And so even I don't know if they teach this anymore, but at the academy, so for to become a special agent, you're doing crime scene processing day or whatever it might be, and you want photo and video evidence usually of a crime scene. And they tell you when you're taking video, you turn the sound off
yeah.
because there's always going to be people in the background
Saying
making
something stupid.
quote unquote inappropriate comments,
Hmm.
right? And obviously, to someone outside of our field, they don't understand that that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
All the defense hears is, oh, you're making all these inappropriate
the
jokes and like,
jury, or yeah,
right, exactly. And it's unfortunate that we're in that place, but that's the reality of the root of that shame. And it does eat away. And people don't know an appropriate way to discharge that tension. And therapy can work, sometimes it kind of depends on the person, right? But you have to get them to the point where they're open to going to therapy to
yeah,
begin with. And even me, I'll admit, I used to preach therapy to my guys all the time. But the second I got to a point where I had a very dear friend who approached me and she was like, I love you and I'm proud of you, but I'm very worried about you.
Yeah.
Because I was active duty. I was working crazy hours. Like I literally, we would hang out and I would wake up the next morning in my bed and they were like, you fell asleep mid-sentence. Like my brain was
Yeah.
just made me shut down and go to sleep. But she was like, I'm worried that this job is really eating you alive. And I was like, okay, I got to go to mental health. But even I had a hard time making that appointment. And I felt so hypocritical because
Yeah.
of all the other times that I've told my guys. And now I'm like, great, like I have to go, they might take my gun,
Right. Well, that's
and
the fear is your career is going to get put on hold.
right, exactly. But, I had to face my own ego and decide, well, if they take my gun, they take my gun, but this is the right thing to do and I have to live in my integrity. But that was really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you completely. It is hard, to figure out where to go. And I had some very unhealthy coping mechanisms as
Hmm.
well. So being the workaholic, so the achievement was a drug for me.
Yeah.
Same thing with I depended on alcohol a little bit too much
Yeah.
for a long period of time there. And thankfully I'm introspective enough to where I was like, this is, not getting
Yeah.
healthy. But
Our ratio of
um
water to alcohol is not working out too good.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, it's kind of wild because when I went back and did that work of when did this start, my imposter syndrome told me I didn't fit in. And so I was like, well, how can I fit in? And there were three ways I learned. So it was never fall out of group PT ever. Like
Mhm.
for me, I was like, I don't care if I die, I will not fall out of a group run. And then cussing as much as the guys, and then drinking as much or more than the guys. Those were the three ways that I was like is if
Right.
I could match that. And unfortunately, I'm still 5'3". So me drinking as much as a 6'3"
Yeah.
guy is, it's just not good
The
for my
ratio is
liver.
not in your favor.
No, it's not.
So, I've witnessed that a few times in my infantry days. I'm like, you're 5'4", about 50 if you're wet. That's a whole bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
This this could be interesting.
Right. All
You know,
right. All
I
right.
always laugh at that because in college, I didn't drink at all, but I remember high school parties, because I live in a small town, we had nothing to do, and I'd watch my basketball team. I thought they could drink, and if they got alcohol, we're all underage. I never drank it then either, but I was a designated driver, and when I get to the Army, I'm like, oh, y'all can really drink. Holy
Yeah.
crap. Infantry paratroopers can I'm like, is that on IV? How did you actually do that? So
Right.
it's
No,
insane.
I was telling someone the other day. So this was back when it was Bowling Air Force Base, not Joint Base
Yep.
Anacostia Bowling.
Hmm.
But I was going to take my PT test. And so we're sitting in the gym and there was this big sign from the Health and Wellness Center. And they were like, a study shows that um 85% of airmen drink less than 3 drinks in one sitting. And I was like, what kind of fiction is this? Like, we all know that that's not true. And
Yeah.
everybody lies on their medical assessments. And
Yeah.
yet you guys are over here proclaiming the good news that everybody doesn't abuse alcohol. Come on.
It's that top 15%. It's not that they drink more than three; they drink more than 20, and it really throws the bell curve off. So
Right?
that one standard deviation from the mean is
Yeah.
really jacked up.
It's just an outlier. I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
That's great. So what did you do? I gotta ask, what did you do your TEDx talk on? Is it your imposter syndrome or?
I did not actually. So I have an electronic detection canine. Her name's Lulu. So there are these police canines that find digital evidence for the child sex abuse material cases. So it's the new term for child pornography. So Lulu is the 23rd canine in the country, and the TED Talk is all about
Okay.
how dogs protect kids. And so sharing the story of how the dogs were created. That involves the original Jared Fogle, if you remember the subway guy.
Oh yeah.
So the very
He's in jail
first,
now.
he's in jail for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the original prototype dog was used in that warrant and found digital media evidence. And so after that, they realized that these dogs were really important in finding, micro SD cards in hoarder houses, which is,
Wow.
a solid 20 to 30% of the search warrants we do are disgusting
Oh yeah.
houses.
Oh
So,
yeah.
it's about the dog's capabilities, but also Lulu's journey. So Lulu failed out of service dog school and she was assessed for detection work. And so it's the story of, rather than, just being depressed about the failure, they pivoted her. And now instead of supporting one person with a disability, which is really important work, now she protects hundreds of thousands of kids
Yeah. That's
from
awesome.
exploitation. So yeah, it's all about the dog. They only
Yeah.
invited me because of the dog.
Hey, it's they make movies about that later on,
Yeah,
and you get what's her Kara Mora, what's her name, Kitty Mora, to play.
right.
It
Uh,
works. It works.
that's
You both have
right.
dark hair. It can happen. You never know.
Uh,
So you have to adopt her though when you're done. That's the rule. So if you don't adopt the dog, nobody cares. So
yeah, right. Seriously.
that's cool. I'll try to figure out how to phrase this question and not get us both in trouble. Um, so your career, your field, if there's, I was a commander, right?
Mhm.
And I had 135 was the most I ever had in my unit, and I would say the same thing. Oh, there's counseling, you can do this, and I know I did 3 visits to Walter Reed, people in the no shoelace room, and for a little while, and a few times at Fort Belvoir to see people that were up there, and thank God nobody actually did it, but one guy decided to walk into the Hudson just for fun, see if he could swim. I'm like, uh, Washington crossed it with the big boat on Christmas. I don't think you should be doing it barefoot in the winter, but true story. And but what other advice do you think would be a better approach if you had the control button for a day?
Yeah, I mean, so where suicide first personally affected me was I had a unit mate who killed himself, and he committed suicide after I left the unit, and hearing about it, it was shocking. I mean, still to this day, of course, one of the insidious parts of suicide for everybody who's left over is they're wondering like what happened, what could I have done differently, and sometimes you have answers to that and sometimes you don't. And he's one that like nobody saw it coming, nobody knew it was going to happen. And so I think in the context of that, my heart always says, I wish that you'd talk to me about it. I
Mm-hmm.
wish you told me what was bothering you. He was one of those happy-go-lucky guys, like really squared away, real go-getter. And it was really devastating to our command when that happened. And it always starts with that connection, right? Like I think especially having, I've never personally committed or tried to commit suicide.
You do this all over your
Yeah, I know,
podcast.
right? um, but I'm not gonna lie, I've had my moments when I was in that pit, especially working child exploitation, where my little bubble was burst about humanity, and I'm just like, I'm over here trying to protect the vulnerable, and I'm like, I kind of think humanity's shit, like,
Yeah.
and I wanted to die for sure. I didn't take proactive steps, but I was like, this is not good.
Yeah.
But being in that really disgusting pit, you feel isolated. You feel like there's no way anybody can understand you. And I think part of the blessing of having that experience is I do have a little bit of understanding of what it's like to be there. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, all we really want is connection.
Yeah.
We really just want someone to see us and accept all of us, including our messiest parts. And that's something I personally, I mean, I love the DoD and I love the Air Force, but I have some beef with that because the standard has become perfection.
Yeah.
So we really aren't allowed to talk about some of those really hard things. And I don't know about you guys, but in a lot of our units in my command, there are very limited strats given out for promotion. So people are competing for
Oh yeah.
money.
It's
And
super.
so
Yeah.
super, super competitive. And it's not always conducive to collaborative unit efforts. And
Yeah.
so it can become very backstabby sometimes. And so a lot of times it's like even telling somebody you're thinking about leaving the military
Or
is
suicide.
super, super
Yeah.
like scary. But so how do you get someone over that to where you're like, hey, I want you to come talk to me if you're really struggling. And for me, the best way I have found is just to share my own pain and suffering. And
Yeah.
that's embarrassing and it opens me up to a lot of criticism. And I have been criticized for that. Some people have called me lots of things,
Yeah.
saying I'm not tough enough or whatever. But frankly, like I find those comments pretty hilarious. We were talking about LinkedIn comments before
Great.
we hopped on. Yeah, right. And it's so funny because I'll post about something like this and I'll get tons of comments where people are like, "Oh my gosh, spot on." And then there's a few where they're like, "Oh, you're not tough enough," and like, "I don't want you in my military." And I'm like, you are not my audience. And also, clearly, look around the room, bro. Like,
Yeah.
read the room.
Yeah.
I'm not alone in my experience. And, I'm glad that you brought all your guys back alive from Afghanistan, but that's not the only thing that matters when it comes
Yeah.
to,
Are they alive
making.
now?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's hard for me not to engage with those folks, but I'm like, if you don't get it by now, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sharing my own stories. And to be honest, even now, as many times as I've talked about it, talking about my alcohol abuse or talking about my own thoughts about death, like is still uncomfortable for me. But I think, that's what I need to, that's my contribution to the fight
Yeah.
to make sure that people don't kill themselves.
That's great. The connection thing is spot on for me. I mentioned before I had lost a friend in 2014, and after his funeral, I told all the guys, I was like, this is never going to happen again. Like, we've been through too much shit to
Yeah.
to lose now. As we say. And so I started a group text of our platoon. Our platoon deployed in 2006, and this is in 2014. And we started a group text. We went through. There's always that one idiot that has an Android that screws it all up.
Yeah.
And this is before Android finally changed their coding to where it wouldn't like start a whole new thread over and over again. God, I hated that. So we went to different apps. Now we're on WhatsApp this, and I don't know what I think we're on Signal now, but we're on over 10 years of this group text, and it is not G rated, but it is a whole lot of fun. Our 4th of July tradition is you're only allowed to talk using GIFs. Um, and so last
My
4th of July,
man.
there were 300 and something gifts on one day from our platoon.
Oh my
It was awesome, but it was
gosh.
like a real conversation. That's the funniest part. You could like flow through it and just like oh, so you're sick, okay, and you hit your head, and just kind of like going through it. It's hilarious, but that's our rule. On 4th of July, you can only talk with gifts, and
Oh my gosh, you are my people. I
so
love gifts. I don't care how dorky they
yeah,
are.
oh, they're great.
I love them.
They're
Yeah.
so much fun. So it's just like, that works for us, and we have a rule of like, it's just, if someone doesn't like, I think there's 17 of us in the group text. And then the rest of the platoon is like 1 degree off. Like, hey, we know we're so-and-so and so-and-so. We talk to them regularly. They're just not in the group text because of their current job. Our platoon, with a bunch of privates and specialists in the day, produced, I think, 6 or 7 Green Berets, you know,
Wow.
and it was a stud of a group of guys. And and so like most of the guys are still active. So like, okay, we understand y'all can't be in the text, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you probably have some really good stories we'd love to hear. So, but like the point of that is to find what works for you,
Yeah.
and what I think the worst thing anybody can do is completely disconnect.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't shaved my chin in a little while, but the thing you see is guys get out and they don't shave for like 3 years. They barely take a shower and they just like move as far as they can from any military base. And that's the worst thing you can do. Is it's a part of who you are. As much as you're, getting out at 3 years, and I retired at 20 and you're at
Yeah.
20 is now, you know, reserve time's different. I get it.
Yeah, totally
but,
different.
but but it's like it's a part of who you are. It may not
Mhm.
define you, but it is a large part of who you are. And to leave it in the humor and is it's a bad road to go down.
No, I agree completely. But now I'm curious about your group chat
Yeah.
because so were you the one that started it?
Yeah, I was sorry.
Okay.
So
Out of curiosity, was it difficult for you to broach the subject with the guys and
no, it
create
really
that
well,
solution?
it
Okay.
was we're a week after our friend killed himself. So everyone's like super sensitive, and we're trying to talk about college because his son was like 3 weeks old, and so we're talking about doing a college fund and all this stuff to like help him out. And I don't know if that ever anytime you bring up money, what's the rule? I don't know. I got taught this growing up. If you talk about God, money, or um, politics, you
Politics.
lose
Yeah.
friends. So um, politics is very much on the board for us. It's a lot of fun, But money's always a weird thing. So people have some, hey guys, anybody want to give me $1,000? I'm like, no, no, I don't. Absolutely, you have a different idea every single day of the week. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I sent out just I created the account, and it gives you a link to share. And I just started texting every single guy, and they respond, "What the crap is this link? Is this going to open something that's going to get Elena at my house?" you
Right.
know,
Right.
because
Right.
you never know around here.
You
So
never
I was
know.
like, no, it was like, so got everybody into the text and say, hey, look, this is the point. This is
Yeah.
what we're doing. This is our safe place. No wives,
Yeah.
no girlfriends. Like they can know it exists, but they're not allowed to read it. Period.
Yeah.
And it's just us. And
Yeah.
it requires fingerprint or face recognition to log into it. And so it really worked. And we had an incident. We had a guy that was like kind of went off the radar and was taking way too many painkillers and alcohol at the same time. And he lives in San Antonio. And we had a guy fly in from Seattle, Michigan, and drove across to Texas. And we're at his house that night. And
Wow.
we got to him, and we took him to the emergency room, got his stomach pumped, and then they flew him back to Seattle. He lived with this guy for 3 months. It's like, look, dude, whatever
Yeah.
situation you and your wife are going through is obviously not healthy. So,
Right. Right.
and so it's a lot more to the story than that. But the point was, we're there
For sure.
and drop
Yes.
everything, and like really drop everything. And are you willing to do that for your friends?
That
So
is amazing. So, out of curiosity,
yeah.
then, if it had been a week before the suicide, would you have brought up the group chat?
Probably not. It definitely triggered it. I can admit that
Yeah.
fully. That for me, that it's something that's always, we were all chatting through like 15
Yeah.
different threads, you know,
Yeah.
and we all had different relationships with each other. And some guys were like, oh, you know, there's like any group of people. There's like, one or two closer friends, and everyone else is good friends. And there's like the one or two guys that are complete idiots. So everybody's got that in a platoon. You're like, we would never be friends if it wasn't for
Right.
the
Right.
military,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right.
But the group allows us all to kind of maintain that
Yeah.
12-year-old immaturity. I
Love
mean,
it.
we're in 2006 is a long time ago. Good
A
God.
long time
My
ago.
back reminds me every day. But like, it's just like the running jokes that just never stop. You talk about being on
Yes.
a crime scene and like things are said. I'll tell you this is a funny story. We had a guy, the Spectre gunship opened up and just obliterated half this village. It's awesome. And so we come up to do the assessment afterwards, and it's what you think a war zone is going to look like. And
Yeah.
but there's power lines down, and one of our guys stepped on it. He's hot wire, hot wire, hot wire, hot wire, just locking up, and we butt start the crap out of him off that wire. And it wasn't like 3 seconds later, like he's like, like shaking it off, and we're like, your name for
Right.
your name forever will not be Raiden. And
Yeah. Right.
and so to this day in that group
Yeah.
text, if he talks at all, the Raiden gifts are like, he speaks. Raiden has spoken. You know,
My
he's like, guys,
gosh.
we're like, it's funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You stepped on a power line next to us, a bunch of dead Iraqis, and it was funny.
Is funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Well, so,
he
but
did it again an hour later. That's what's funny.
shut up.
we go to
Oh my gosh,
we were like going
bro.
house to house trying to find the one squirter that left, and he went to push a button or a light switch or something, and it electrocuted.
Oh my
And we're
gosh.
like, you got electrocuted twice in like 2 hours. I mean, come on, this is funny.
Oh, bless his
So
heart. I love that so much.
yeah,
Well, but so here's the thing about that though, is correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like because of what happened with your buddy, there was no ego
oh yeah,
at play,
oh yeah,
right?
they dropped it. Yeah,
Right. And so like in order to change those behaviors in the group, it takes one person
yeah, to
to
initiate.
initiate, and that's hard and it's awkward.
Super.
I mean, and unfortunately, you guys had this horrific event happen, which was the catalyst. But that's you guys harnessing that horrible event and trying to create some healing and do
Yeah.
something good so
Yeah.
that it's not repeated, but it is hard to be that one person. And I know with my group of friends, and we've been friends for, years and years and
Right.
years. When I got to that point, I had to reach out and have awkward conversations where I'm like, hey, like, I love you guys. And I know we go a long time without talking, but I would love to talk to you more. And, like
I'm
checking
not
in on
doing well.
somebody. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like that kind of stuff is hard to do. But it actually reminds me of that David Goggins quote, right? The one that goes something like, for every 100 people on the battlefield, there's like 10 that are worthless. And then there's 80 that are there and they're
Yeah.
getting shot at and they're doing the thing, but they're like, but there's like
The
10 that
fighter, the warriors.
really,
Yeah.
right, that are the warriors and get the mission done.
Yeah.
Like, like to me in this conversation, you need to be one of those 10,
Yeah.
right? Like you need to have that courage to get the mission done. And if the mission is you make sure your buddy's okay, then
Yeah.
like you got to put your ego aside. And that's really, really hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Especially in the stereotypical, as they say, alpha groups.
mhm.
Like I'm like, I'm not. I always laugh at that because like people, oh, you must be like a type alpha. I'm like, I've done a lot of these personality tests, and alpha is not one of them that I ever get. And they're like, what? You were in the army and you all this stuff. I'm like, okay, that's great, but you were a commander. I'm like, yeah, I made decisions, but that doesn't make me a type alpha. Like,
Right.
what do you think you are? I'm like, I think it's called a B minus. Actually, is what it is. I'm serious. I think there's a chart of the ABCD, and
No
there's a
way.
plus minus. Yeah, I did like this like 800 question thing I paid for years ago. That's what it spit out, and it basically is like, in short, is I do best if you give me guidance, parameters, and let me go. Like you'll get peak performance from me. And it's funny, I look back at it and I was like, yeah, that's why I was a good XO. I was a really good XO. I was a sucky PL. My platoon will probably hear this and be like, yep, you were. I was a terrible, because I was an E6 promotable 2 weeks before. And then I was a PL of a maintenance platoon. I'm like, I went from being airborne infantry, kicking indoors and blowing stuff up, to the motor pool. I didn't know a motor pool existed. You know, we don't have that in the
Right.
infantry. So,
Right.
and it was really hard for me. And I was like, I just want to punch everybody at times.
Right.
Where'd everybody go? Why is everybody out smoking? What the crap is going on?
Yeah.
And so it's like my brain was just exploding, just data overload. By being XO, I was like, oh, my commander, we called him the Phantom because we never saw him. And so like I just got to just do everything. It was great. So
Oh my gosh, that's
so
hilarious.
I mean,
Oh,
I went to so many command and staffs as an XO. Like I probably went to probably 20 to 30 of them myself.
are you serious?
Yeah. And my
Oh,
battalion commander's like, where's your bus? I'm like, I have no idea. It's like, seriously? I'm like, no, I'm done covering. I mean, I used to say I had an appointment, or he's
right.
flat tire, just whatever I could, just to like try to cover for you, man. But you're not answering my text either. And find out he's hunting on Fort Sill, like he's bow hunting at 2 in the morning on
I,
a Tuesday. I'm like, what the crap are you doing?
oh my gosh, that is
Yeah,
bananas.
yeah. So I told my boss, I'm like, I don't know. So you don't know, I'm like, sir, he made captain. He stopped checking in with me. I was it's good times. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's fun though. But well, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit here. And is there any kind of closing comments? Your current field is sorry, my son's gonna say hi.
Oh,
Hey,
it's
buddy,
okay.
you say hi? Say hi.
Hi.
All
Nice
right.
to meet you.
So, um, but um, I'm trying to figure out what if someone has a idea that something might bad be going on somewhere, outside of just calling 911 or whatever, within the ranks of the military. What would you kind of recommend someone do to get the right information to someone like in your field?
Get the right information in terms of like
Reporting, yeah,
reporting.
or just
Um,
normal CID or MP routes, or would you do?
I mean, yeah, if you feel comfortable going to CID, absolutely. Or I mean, really any law enforcement agency,
Yeah,
like whoever you feel most comfortable with. But it's sort of like, in the military, we do a lot of mental preparation.
Oh
So
yeah.
you want to be prepared for the actual event when it happens. And so if there's a safe person that you can go talk to about
Yeah.
it to make that report, like that's the first thing I would
Yeah.
do. And for me, I always recommend um I don't care if you're not sure, you don't have evidence. If your spidey sense is going off, I
Yeah.
want to know about it. And I
Yeah.
would rather look into it and it be nothing than you ignore your spidey sense, because I think that's you being
Travesty.
out of alignment anyway.
Yeah.
And we need to cultivate that trust with ourselves when our
Yeah.
body's telling us something's off. And so yeah, it like any law enforcement agency, but I've worked with CID, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And it's been a big blessing to work with the military criminal investigation partners with NCIS and
Yeah.
Marine Corps CID and like real professionals. And honestly, like of all the missions I've worked, I wish you guys could see these folks in action. So when we work operations, I've had people tell me like, Alani, we're going all weekend and we're going all night until you tell us to stop, because this is what I live for, right?
Yeah.
It's protecting the vulnerable. And so I know CID can get a bad rap, but there are good ones out there
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. And so, yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a good deal. So there's a need for a reason. So, but
Hmm.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and just kind of share your story, your experience, and hopefully someone out there hears it and prevents them from making a horrible decision.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal of all of this. And if you haven't gotten her book, The Least of Us, by all means, check it out. I'll put the link to it. I'm sure it's on Amazon because
Yeah,
everything's on
it is.
Amazon
I
nowadays.
know.
And I'll put that in the description and everybody can check it out. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. It always helps. And then we'll see you on the next show.